your reaction to what they said and just them putting it.
I think the biggest thing for me is I said it before too early. I mean, obviously you have to ask that question, but my focus is I got a lot of things to focus on outside of that right now. To be honest, I got to focus on myself, getting back for this group, focus on us getting over this stretch, continuing to be ready when it comes time. So I'll handle that when it comes to and I understand you got to ask that question. I'm gonna give you the same answer. My teammates know me. At the end of the day, and we're going out there trying to find ways to win the championship. And it starts with days like tonight. But I know you have to ask, so I appreciate it.
Band of the day today is the Beastie Boys, brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com. That was Donovan Mitchell right there. He's back in town. Cleveland Cavaliers playing the Utah Jazz tonight. And you could hear him asked about the contract extension and staying in Cleveland. I understand why you have to ask the question, but my focus isn't there. So what's your guess on his future since he's focused on the rest of this season?
Start spreading the news.
Jason, he will play for the Cavaliers until he gets traded. Do they want one more year from him or just move him this summer and get something for him?
That's a question for Dan Gilbert and the administration of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, we can't speak for them. You wonder, though, what would New York be willing to give up? And then if it's not New York, what would anybody be willing to give up? If his heart is set on playing in his home city, he's born in the suburbs there, went to school. He's a private school kid all the way. 3 private schools his whole life. 2 in Connecticut and then 1 up in New Hampshire, which is the one he went to finish out. Several players have played in the NBA from that school. You can go look it up. So from that perspective, if he wants to do that, why would a team not named the Knicks be willing to give up anything for him? And then why would the Knicks be willing to give up anything for him if they know he's going to come in 12 or 6 months? You see what I'm saying there? So
I totally get it. The leverage is decreasing. This is along the lines of right. This is along the lines of what we were talking about when the Jazz traded him to Cleveland. Move him now because every passing year the leverage decreases.
Yeah.
To your first question, I would say, why would any of the other NBA teams trade for him? They'd have to be very close to a championship and think that in that 1 year, that would help get him across the finish line. I can't think of another reason why someone would trade. Maybe you can, but that's all I got. They got to be really close and think, we can do it, and the model would be Toronto with Kawhi Leonard. You got 1 year. If it gets you across the finish line, great. It turned out it did. It would take a team thinking that way.
Yeah, but I don't think that Kawhi Leonard had specifically said, I'm going to go play in the Southern California region. I think he was from inland a little bit there in the Riverside area, but the Clippers is close enough, as close as you're going to get for home. And I don't know that Kawhi Leonard, who doesn't say a whole lot to begin with, had expressed overwhelming desires to play there. See, I don't think that when Toronto makes that trade, they're thinking they're only going to have him for 1 year. I'm not sure. Maybe it was, but I'm not sure that was their mindset. So that's as close as you're going to come, probably as an example or some form of parallel. But it certainly isn't an accurate, complete, and total representation similarity of this situation here, where he said, if you go and listen to him, and I wrote about it, they'll post it today. But they said that. Went back and listened to his press conferences. He said, I'm not going to lie. I thought I was going to New York. We all thought he was going to New York. And then it didn't work out. The Jazz took the other offer, obviously. But if you're New York, what would you offer? I don't know that you would offer that anything that I would want. I think at this point, you're pretty much looking at, if he doesn't re-sign with Cleveland, does Cleveland just let him walk and use the money to do whatever, or realize we're in Cleveland and LeBron got us our title, and that's probably the only one we're going to get in our lifetime. So we'll just deal with it and go. I mean, Gilbert's talking about the young nucleus that the team has, and it does have a young nucleus. There's no doubt about it. If he were to stay, they could be very much competitive in terms of winning 50 games for the duration of his existence, at least the next contract anyway. So I get that. There is attractive reasons to stay with Cleveland because they do stand to be competitive, and he's an outstanding player. You cannot deny that this guy is a magnificent player. I mean, I am long since trying to do away with that. Not that I ever did, but I know some people want, well, he didn't get out of the second round, blah, blah, blah. I get that. But so you don't make any trades because the guy hasn't won a title. That's going to really limit your ability to trade for players if that's your standard that you are requiring the players that you acquire to meet. There's just not that many. I mean, he's, I think he's averaging career highs in rebounds, assists. I think he's a skosh under his career high scoring, but it's right there next to each other. I think it was last year he was like 28, and this year he's 27. He's had some injuries, though, this year. But you wonder, New York, how much would they be willing to open up the checkbook? I mean, they already got Brunson.
There it is. There it is. I think you just
great player in his own right.
You hit on the key point about why the Knicks might be motivated to make a trade. Do they want to wait a year and let some of the salaries? I mean, I think they got like 5 guys whose contracts are coming up, and probably clear $50 million or so, and just make the move then as a free agent into a slot? Or do you want to speed it along, maybe trade some of those guys who presumably you wouldn't be able to sign anyway because you're going to start bumping up against the collective bargaining agreement and salary cap luxury tax issues. So that would be the move, I guess. If this is what they want to do and they think it's going to make their team better, why not do it a year earlier? Or you could just wait and let, Bogey's contract come off the books and Anunoby's contract come off the books.
I think if I were the Knicks, I would wait. Unless they want to, and Cleveland wants to take a bunch of players that I don't really care if I have on my team or not. They're roster fillers. If that's the situation, maybe I do that, I suppose. But you look at it, even though he's a smaller player, they list him at 6'3". We've stood next to him 100 times. I don't think he's 6'3". Brunson is not very tall, but still, man, that combination, that'd be the best lefty-righty combination since Koufax and Drysdale.
I see what you did there. Mix and match.
No. I'm gonna go Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling.
There you go. Way to update it a generation or two.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Let's see, or some great left-handers. You can find the right-hander, but finding the left-hander. Well, I mean, I can go Tom Seaver and Jerry Kuzman.
No.
Paul McCartney and John Lennon.
There you go. Now you're talking.
McCartney's left-handed, right?
Steve Klauke objects.
Well, he's an idiot when it comes to that. Some great lefty-righty combos. Because that Brunson's left-handed. That would be Jerry West and Gail Goodrich.
Scott Dunn says, when confronted, Donovan Mitchell is back in town as the Cavs play the Jazz. What's your guess in the future? And Scott says, I don't really care. Can Jazz fans really not care? Have they let it go?
I think you can let it go, but you can care. I think that you don't, as a basketball fan, wouldn't you be interested to see where he's going to go, what he's going to do? And as a former Jazz player, doesn't mean you root against him and you hate him, yada, yada. I mean, he's not Hayward here. He let you know. He didn't make the owner come down on a holiday weekend and make a pitch.
That had no chance of getting the answer they wanted.
Right. Waste all that time. And the jet fuel on the private jet pollute the ozone.
There it is.
I mean, it wouldn't be. That's part of the reason we have this crazy weather, right? I mean, it was Gordon Hayward making the Jazz do it, and Taylor Swift doing it. Those two. I mean, I still haven't gotten over it. So at least from that perspective, he lets you know ahead of time, way ahead of time, years ahead of time. It's in your best interest to do this because I'm not going to do that you want me to do, meaning trade me because I'm not going to re-sign. So you appreciate his honesty, and he's so media savvy, this guy. It's amazing. At 20 years old, he was media savvy. I think his dad works in public relations for the Knicks or the Mets. So maybe he has some training there or had some wherewithal. Because even now, so he gave that answer, which was just the other day, because Gilbert comes out and says that, and then they think, I'm pretty confident we're going to sign him. Basically, that's what I'm paraphrasing in a nutshell. And then when Mitchell comes back from injury and has immediate availability, he gets that the local media in town is going to ask him about that, and he says that. He says, I understand, you got to ask the question, but he'd already had the answer, and he basically went blah, 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 and said stuff, gave them some material, but at no point tipped his hand whatsoever.
Well played.
Yes, that's who he is. You got to admit, this guy's pretty sharp.
If he goes, no comment, well, he just makes it a big story and he tips his hand.
Right, and he never shows an attitude.
Right. I got to focus on the here and now and worry about that later.
Right.
Which actually is kind of, it's an answer a lot of fans want to hear. It's like, well, you negotiate a contract in the summer. Right now, how about you win that game that I'm paying money or blocking out time to see? Go win that thing.
He's smooth, man, with his media interactions. You got to acknowledge that. The guy can handle himself. He knows how to stand on his feet and really be sharp. And he's a great player.
Is there any chance the conventional wisdom is wrong and he doesn't go to New York?
Yes.
And Cleveland is right and they sign him and they give him the money and he stays there?
Or he goes someplace else. He plays it out and becomes a free agent and goes someplace else. So, yes, I think that I've learned over the years that you really don't know this far out. It's too far. This is sort of like the coach in waiting. We hear about these coaches in waiting, and then it seems nothing ever happens. They go someplace else or whatever. And we think this is going to happen, that's going to happen. So maybe not, maybe in his heart. I mean, he doesn't want to say it publicly. I'm going to New York no matter what, the hell or high water expression. But I don't know that. I don't know what's in his heart. I mean, you can talk about what we think, but that's a lot of time because he can't do it until next summer. So we have to go through the whole 24-25 season if he wants to play it out, and that's the way the rules are. And if he does it, man, I don't know how you could begrudge him. He's playing by the rules. He played his butt off for the teams he was with, and so he takes advantage of the system, and he has every right to do that.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up in 1 hour, Big T Thurl Bailey, his North Carolina State Wolfpack, back in the Final Four. And the men and the women are both there. We'll talk Jazz basketball and Wolfpack greatness with Big T Thurl Bailey in 1 hour, right here on The Zone.